Hello, thank you for rejoining my channel. My name is Dick Fleming, and during the Vietnam War I was a member of Recon Battalion and then transferred over to Force Recon. And I wrote my stories about my time in Vietnam in a book called Chasing Charlie, which is available on Amazon. I also have a website called firstforcerecon.com, which has links to other resources and photographs that I took during my time in Vietnam, or other people have sent me over the years. There's also a playlist on my channel, which I think sequences my time in Vietnam from when I first arrived as a newbie until my final trip out from the Da Nang airfield after my tour of duty had been ended, and even after that, a few videos about what happened after my time in the war. So today I'm going to tell you about An Hoa. And to preface this a little bit, I'd like to say that, when people talk about horrific events, or Marines talk about horrific events, they talk about Iwo Jima, Tarawa, the Solomon Islands, the horrific fighting that went on down, during World War II. And I don't want to take anything away from the bravery of those men who fought in World War II. Those were horrific battles that they fought in. And thousands of Marines died on those beaches in the jungles of the Solomon Islands and Iwo Jima. Just horrendous brutality, and forgetting about all of the Japanese who also sacrificed their lives for what they believed was their country's best interest. Well, what I'm going to talk to you about today is An Hoa. And the name today for me is the epitome of hell. It was an hellacious place for us. And other Marines can say, well, Khe Sanh was as bad, if even worse. Or they may say, Hue, that fighting in the city of Hue was horrible. We lost hundreds of men brutally. Well, I can only talk about my experiences. And from my experiences, hell on earth was An Hoa. So we were in Da Nang, a fairly secure area in Da Nang. We did get mortared. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty secure. And we would run our patrols out of Da Nang into the mountains and far into enemy territory. Even along the Laos-Siam border and Cambodia, and even into Laos and Cambodia. But when we returned to a fairly secure area. Da Nang, around Da Nang. So one day our commander, Major, said to us, we're going to be moving out, guys. We're going to be heading deep into the Central Highlands. We're going to be going to a region called An Hoa. From there we'll be able to readily get into the interior of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Laos, Cambodia. Well, we didn't have any say in it. we said, what we're going to do is we're going to be the clandestine. Nobody's supposed to know about this. It's ultra secret, guys. You know, you forget about your gold jump wings. Forget about your high and tight haircuts and the jump boots. We're going to be going in, and if anybody asks you who you are, you're going to be saying you're the second laundry detachment. Well, that got a big laugh from everybody, obviously. Second laundry detachment. And of course, probably all of the gooks who are working on in our compound, you know, and the guys the papasans who cut our hairs, and the mamasans who took care of our laundry, and the people, gypsy in our shed, you know, in our enlisted man's bar. I'm sure they all knew where the hell we were going. We certainly weren't gonna get in there and pretend that we were the second laundry detachment. You know, not with our hair cut high and tight like that. You know, we were obviously gonna be discovered, but who the hell? You know, what the hell? So they loaded us onto C-46s, and they dropped us in the middle of this barren plain with an airfield on one side. And that's it. And as soon as we dropped into this barren sand pit, if you will, surrounded by mountains, you know, they dropped in, you know, rows of razor wire, concertina wire, in big bales. And we were supposed to set up our own compound on the outskirts of this airfield there. It was owned by the Air Force and the Marines Air Force. I don't know who the hell owned it. And so we started digging in. What else are we going to do? We were absolutely exposed in this area, you know, when we first got in. And so we started digging ditches, right? That's what we did. That's what they told us to do. We dug ditches, you know, 3 feet wide and about 5 feet deep, you know, in the sandy soil. In front of us was this barren wasteland. And then way in the distance, about a mile away, these huge mountains were coming up over us. To me, it didn't look good at all. You know, I kept on thinking of Dien Bien Phu, when the French, you know, put an airfield in the middle of this plateau surrounded by mountains, and what happened to them? Well, nobody asked me. All they asked me was, you know, when are you going to go out on the next work detail? And boy, did we work. In that hot sun, you know, we dug our ditches, you know, our trenches, and we strung that razor wire, you know, 7 feet deep across our perimeter, and we tried to construct a compound, you know, protect us, because no one knew you know, if we would be attacked or not, and we were told that we probably would be attacked. So you know, I remember my friend and I, Moose, you know, came, you know, pounding those stakes into the ground. I have a picture of it on my YouTube URL, firstcourserecon.com. We're slamming the posts in, and we're stringing this concertina wire, which is razor wire. It came in great big coils. We had thick gloves on our hands. As soon as you cut the coils, they expand out like this. And you couldn't help but be cut up. You know, each one had a little razor barb on it. Instead of barbed wire, there were like razor blades all over it. And it expanded out. Man, you could lose your eye, or you could lose you get really cut up with those things. You know, even with the thick leather gloves that we had to work with it. Oh, we strung a couple lines of barbed wire around the fencing that the perimeter that the lieutenant had indicated, and we dug our trenches, and boy, you know, within 24 hours, we had that compound encased in barbed wire and ditches and fairly secure. You know, not totally secure by any means. I mean, if the NVA had attacked us at that point, they would have run right over us. You know, they had these bungalow torpedoes, I think they called them. You know, pipes filled with explosives. They put them under the wire, and then they blew them up, and the wire would shatter, and they could come in. But fortunately, you know, either we arrived too soon before they knew who the hell what was going on, or they were probably thinking, the hell with these guys at the edge of the perimeter of the airfield. We want to strike the main airfield and hit those jets and stuff that were on the runway there. And An Hoa was quite a large complex. I mean, it wasn't tiny. It was a tiny fire base. It was quite a large complex, and we were sort of sticking out off to the side of one area of it. Well, the Seabees came in the next day, and we slept on the ground the first day. The Seabees came in the second day, and they created tent platforms for us, like I don't know, 10 by 15 or something, maybe 10 by 10, I don't remember. But they erected tents for us, you know, on a wooden platform, you know, staked up about a foot or two from the ground. It's lucky they did that, you know, a couple feet, because when the monsoon started, that entire area flooded completely. You know, so our tents were sort of floating above the water. And all of the trenches that we had dug, you know, were completely filled with water. We had to put in stakes just to know where to walk. If we were to fall into those trenches that we had dug in a month before, you know, somebody could have drowned, for God's sakes. Anyway, so we worked away, and we tried to fortify that place to the best of our ability. And it was tough. It was really tough. For one thing, we were also going out on patrols. You know, the helicopters would come in. They landed on an improvised landing zone that we set up, you know, with steel corrugated plates. And then the helicopters would come in, the C-46s. And eventually the Hueys and the Cobras even, and we were the first units to get the Cobra gunships in. And you know, they'd land there, and our teams would go out, you know, after working all day at the, you know, trying to protect our perimeter. Well, that was a lot of work, let me tell you. But it was worth it. Because at night we started to get bombarded by rockets that were coming in from the hills, and the rockets would come in, you know, huge. I thought of rockets as kind of, you know, flimsy things, you know, flying away. You know, I never thought about rockets. These rockets, you know, were the metal on those things were about 2 inches thick. They were substantial things, and they would come in with a whoosh, you know, from the hills above us. At night, they never seemed to strike us. At least I don't remember striking us during the day. They would come in at night, and they were probably trying to get to the airfield behind us, but a lot of those rockets struck short, and we were basically defenseless. We'd roll over out of our cots that we're sleeping in, and roll over into the trenches. And if the rocket came short, it would blast shrapnel all over the place and wound guys. You know, I got to be so adept at it, I didn't even think twice. I had my rifle and my my web gear and my flak jacket all in one place to the right of my right of my cot. And with one move, I could grab everything and roll right off right off of that platform that we have into the trench. And the shrapnel would come over my head most of the time. Anyway, some of the time, we were on guard duty. We had created some bunkers, some defensive perimeters. With sandbags and everything around the outside of the perimeters. We had machine guns and we had claymores set up, and we had trying to, make a defensive perimeter up. And sometimes the rockets would come in and blow up, facilities. There's a big building to our right for a while, and I don't know what was stored in it or whatever. It was just like I don't know, a metal building storing something, and a rocket hit it, and it completely blew up. It blew up, 100 feet from us. It went up and all over the place in flames and everything. I don't know what was in it. And we all crouched down, and I was at the bottom. I was usually at the bottom because I was the first one to go down. But I remember Frenchie, piling on top of me. He had already gotten 2 Purple Hearts, and he said to me, Dick, if I got a third Purple Heart, I can get out of here. I don't know whether he was suggesting that I stabbed him with my knife or something or whatever. But he was angry. He was really anxious to get the hell out of Vietnam at that point. And that building just exploded in front of us, 100 feet, in front of us, in front of our position. And that gave us even more incentive the next day to, create another layer of barbed wire around us. But at the end of this, we had 7 layers of barbed wire, all with flares, and we had bunkers, on each side of us, machine guns intersecting, they had at An Hoa, it must have been a mining compound at one point, because they had this huge tower that came up with some sort of a ramp that went up to the top. It was probably mechanized, some sort of a conveyor belt or something, and went up to the top of this ramp. And we created an observation post up there with sandbags and everything. We had a 50 caliber set up there, and with a scope, and we could use that as was a wonderful sniper location. We set the 50 caliber on single shot, and with that scope we could look out, for a quarter of a mile, if more, and pick off anything that was coming toward us. But nothing was coming toward us. The entire plane was barren, and but at night, you could see the flashes of the rockets as they went in. And when they went in, we would call in, where it was. And I remember one time, some new guy came in, and he's saying, "I see a flash, we're going to get hit." And the sirens went off and everything like that. And the major calls in, "What's the location, where is it?" And he goes, "I see another one coming in." He must have held the transmitter down. "I see another one coming in." And the major goes, "Well, where the hell is it? Give me the direction. We'll get artillery on it." And the guy goes, "Hey, here comes another one. Duck! Here comes another one." Yeah, you couldn't hear what the major was saying. You can't help but laugh at crap like that. But it was ridiculous, in a way. So that was the way it was in An Hoa. if you weren't on guard duty, if we weren't on guard duty there, and we're in the trenches, and that happened, you know, 2 or 3 times a night we get mortared or rocketed, and then we hear, you know, oh, Khe-Sanh, you know, had 10 times they were rocketed during the night. Well, Jesus Christ, we were rocketed even more than Khe-Sanh. One of the corporals said that to his sergeant. Hey, you know, what's the story with Khe-Sanh? You know, here we are, we're getting rocketed more. He's trying to build himself up, I guess, or something, and saying, you know, well, we're worse than they are, and they get all the attention, and we're not getting anything. Oh gosh. So anyway, you know, things are going along quite horribly. You know, we're getting these rockets in all the time, and they you know, our central command post hadn't even been built yet, and finally the Seabees came in one day, and they dug out a huge pit, and they put in timbers, and they were gonna establish a command post for us, because we were living out of trenches, for God's sakes. So they created this building made out of really fat timbers. You know, it looked like it could stand an assault, but it had to be protected from these rockets and stuff. So we were told to build up sandbags around it. Well, the top sergeant, the first sergeant comes in, this huge guy, half bagged, I think, on beer and whatever. And he has these work parties working away night and day. Bags of sandbags. And he's sitting on top of this thing. And he's saying, throw more bags, more bags, more bags. He's drunk out of his mind, I think. And so we were throwing the sandbags up to him all day long. And he was piling them up like it was a great big, I don't know, structure. There was no interlocking of the sandbags or anything like that. And when the first monsoon hit, we worked for weeks on this thing. It was like a gigantic, ungainly structure, like a pile of sandbags. Hundreds and not thousands of sandbags piled up. When the first monsoon hit, all of those sandbags fell, all over the place. Because this guy didn't know what the hell he was doing. So finally, the major came in and brought a group of gooks in, and they used our sandbags and created a structure that would maintain an assault. They laid out wire, like a concertina wire between the sandbags, and they had them interlocked and stuff like that. And so, it really looked good. The base was built up about 5 feet, and then there was another base built up and built up and built up, and all the sandbags, interlocked together. Well, hell, those guys have been building sandbag structures, since the Japanese. They knew what the hell they were doing. This fool top sergeant of ours, he didn't have a clue. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. All he knew was more sandbags, more sandbags, more sandbags. He exhausted us all, throwing sandbags up to him, and he was putting them down, willy-nilly. Well, that's not going to build a structure that would maintain anything. The man was a fool. Anyway. Let me ask anybody, why in the world were we there in the first place? I mean, why were we there trying to defend the airfield? No. We were there because it was closer to the Laotian-Cambodian border where we were running patrols out of. But what what difference would it make if we were at Da Nang? 10 more minutes of flying time in a C-46? That's all it would have taken. We would have been completely safe back in Da Nang. And we wouldn't have had to do all of this. Why were we there? But no one asked me. I was there to fill sandbags and to establish our defensive perimeter with concertina wire. That's all that I was asked about. But how stupid, can you be? Well, you can be pretty stupid. So anyway, the compound now was looking pretty solid. We had our command posts situated, and we had even built these bunkers. We could go into and protect ourselves around the outside of the perimeter. And there were central bunkers as well that I hated. They were just like tombs to me. They were sandbag structures, dug in about 5 feet or 10 feet into the earth, sandbagged all around, with bunkers. And the idea was that if the enemy had attacked, we'd be a reactionary force to get out and repel the attack. Whenever I went into one of those things, I felt like I was entering into a tomb. You couldn't really breathe in there. They were stuffy and no air circulating. And if a rocket had ever hit one, we would have all been killed inside. And the idea was, if the enemy made it through the wire, we'd be a reactionary force. We came in with our weapons and our machine guns and stuff like that. We'd run out and repel the attack. Well, I hated that. In fact, I volunteered on a number of missions to get the hell out of An Hoa and go into the bush, because I felt that I was safer there than I was within the compound itself, being rocketed just about every night. There was no skill involved in that. It was blind chance. And the VC had attacked the not the VC, probably the NVA had attacked the compound right next to us, artillery compound. And in the morning, we had heard the machine gun fire and everything. Of course, we were on full alert. But in the morning, those guys came back with 4x4 trucks loaded with the Vietnamese, the NVA that they had killed on the wire in front of them, after the attack. And they were throwing them onto the trucks. I don't know what happened to them, but there must have been like 40 or 50 people, 40 or 50 NVA that had tried to attack that their area. It could have well been our area that they attacked, but they attacked right next to us. And these guys loaded those bodies onto the truck like there was so much cordwood, and took them away. That was An Hoa. A real hellhole if there was ever a hellhole. Vietnam, 1968.